Welcome back to World Crisis Radio, leading the fight to freeze foreclosures and let the zombie bankers take it on the chin through individual responsibility, the sanctity of contracts, and the rule of law, and due process, and the Constitution. All of this dictates stop foreclosures for 5 years or the duration of this economic depression. Back to the Washington Post of October 14th. We're told in euphemistic terms, some foreclosures in many counties may be dismissed, and home buyers who are poised to purchase these properties may lose the chance. Yeah, but how about the family that gets to stay there instead of being thrown out on the street and become homeless, and their children are homeless? Great preparation for competing with China in the 21st century. The actions taken at the federal and state level come amid a public debate over whether a moratorium on foreclosure cases, now enacted in some states and by some lenders, should be extended nationwide. And here we get the real wrecker operation, Obama, the Wall Street puppet, the Obama administration as an openly discredited gaggle of Wall Street puppets. And the Ulsterman story is coming up later, how to get rid of him. Dump Obama. But here in the meantime, let's hear from this Edward DeMarco, the head of the Federal Housing Finance Administration, acting director. Quote, "The country's housing finance system remains fragile, and I intend to maintain our focus on addressing this issue in a manner that is fair to delinquent households." Delinquent households means those marginal Okies that we would call the American people. Fair to delinquent households, but also fair to servicers, mortgage investors, neighborhoods, and most of all is in the best interest of taxpayers and housing markets. Markets. Close quote. All right. So you get the idea. It's that they say the evolution of the market is more important as an abstraction, this reactionary myth of the market, compared to the actual destinies and concrete fates of individual working families. And remember, this nation rises or falls depending on whether the American working family succeeds or fails. And here's a guy who says, forget working families. I'm concerned with servicers, mortgage investors. These are zombie bankers. The servicers are essentially the process servers and the markets. Al Franken, Democrat of Minnesota, right? Gold is where you find it. And that's the way it is, right? If we didn't have evil people doing good, the world would have ended long ago. Al Franken says, this plan seems to only require that servicers conduct an internal review, the very same servicers that brought us this mess. Yeah, right. It's the fox guarding the hen house and all this other stuff. We have the Greenwich Financial Services, who demands the sanctity of investors' rights, even if they can't prove it, even if the paperwork doesn't exist. If we can't come up with a system for investors to enforce their contract rights here, then there shouldn't be a securitization market. It's just as simple as that. Yeah, you're right. There should not be a securitization market. Stop derivatives. Tax every phase of derivatives. Outlaw credit default swaps. Outlaw collateralized debt obligations. These really are illegal and always should have been. But now we get contract rights. Hey, you want your contract rights? Produce the contract. Show the piece of paper with somebody's John Hancock signature on it in ink, dated. Simple, right? You want a contract right? Give us the contract. Oh, we can't do that because it was put into a warehouse in Hong Kong and then shredded. Sorry, you lose, zombie bankers. So you get the idea. Now, the Obama administration, this is just wretched, and this sums up the problem that we've been pointing to. For the Democratic Party, it's a second chance. We're basically back to where we were 2 years ago. We quite possibly have a systemic crisis coming. Now, let's look into that part. How are the share prices of the zombie banks faring? Well, in today's paper, we have a summary of yesterday's action, yesterday being October 14th. J.P. Morgan Chase was down about 3% on the 14th of October. Wells Fargo was down 4.2%. Citigroup is down 4.5%. Bank of America down 5.2%. That's just one day for big zombie banks. And today, Bank of America is down another 4%, making a 10% loss in 2 days. Well, this gets us back to something like, the Lehman Brothers stock price in late August, early September of 2008. And indeed, that's where we may be headed. Now, notice that even the zombie banks themselves, they're afraid of getting sued. If they wrongfully kick you out and you can prove it, then they can be sued for huge damages. And you've also got to make sure that you threaten them with that at every phase. And it is that reason, not humanitarian concerns or patriotism or anything like that, that has forced a lot of these zombie banks to impose their own informal, voluntary, self-policed, meaning non-policed moratorium on foreclosures. And that would include Bank of America, which is the biggest. They're by far the biggest holder of these residential mortgages. They have stopped foreclosures in all 50 states. They say. There's no oversight, so we don't know. But they say they've stopped it everywhere. J.P. Morgan Chase, General Motors Acceptance Corporation in whatever form that now exists, and PNC Bank have stopped this process in, I think, 23 states. Actually, it's only 23 states where you need a court to take somebody's house away. Again, you can change that. In other words, if somebody comes after you with some kind of an order, then you go to court, right? If your state doesn't require the intervention of a court. States like Virginia, notoriously very easy to take somebody's house away. Maryland, as we see, a bit harder. District of Columbia, very easy to take somebody's house. Now, here's the question. What they're already fighting about, the zombie bankers and the financiers are already fighting about who's going to eat the losses. Here's the general idea. Congressman Alan Grayson, Democrat of Florida, and this is better than anything he's done in a good long time. He has written a letter to Tiny Tim Geithner, Secretary of the Treasury, and Helicopter Ben Bernanke, the Fed chairman, and Grayson says, quote, "The liability here for the major banks is potentially enormous and can lead to systemic risk, meaning a breakdown crisis of the entire thing." A key case has come before the Supreme Court of Massachusetts, will shed light on whether trusts have valid ownership of the loans. A lower court judge has already ruled that Wells Fargo and United States Bank do not have the right to foreclose on two properties because of errors in the securitization process, a decision which the banks are fighting. See, they say they don't want to foreclose, but then when you tell them they can't, they send in the lawyers. A search of court records by an attorney for homeowners in Florida turned up 80 cases in which a trust initiated foreclosures before it had registered its ownership. So Citibank tried to take their houses and did start foreclosure procedures in May 2008 on these houses, but they weren't listed as the owner for another year until March 2009. You get the idea. It's illegal. And they're already fighting about who will eat the losses. If the basic principles of property law have been violated here, it may be extremely difficult to fix, as a source quoted by the Washington Post, a source involved in government oversight of financial institutions. So, stop the chaos, stop the evictions, no DPs, no displaced persons here in the United States. And again, a lot of these mortgages initiated with Angelo Mozillo of Countrywide, who is now on trial, the gangster Mozillo, the mafioso. We'll be back in a minute.